the Brian Whitman Podcast Show at brianwhitman.com. Thank you so much for joining me today. And every day, brianwhitman.com, Monday through Friday, you get a full month of Whitman. As you great subscribers know, for $5, you get an entire month of Whitman shows. You can download it. You can put it in your iPod. You can burn it to a CD. You can listen to it in the car. You can jog to it, or you can sit there in the office, listen on the desktop. You can listen on your laptop if you're traveling for business. Our subscribers, I used to say thanks to the dozens and dozens and dozens of people who have subscribed to brianwhitman.com. I now, Randy Wang, can say thank you to the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people who have subscribed at brianwhitman.com. So I'm excited about that. It means a lot to me that you would subscribe. Really, it does. It means a lot because this is not the this is the second time I've actually done internet radio. I'm doing a podcast, which is it's not a live internet show. I heard a little buzz, a little hum. Did you hear that, Randy?
Looks like it was somebody's cell phone.
Yeah, don't think it was mine, dude. Could it possibly be a technical glitch that you could be held accountable for?
Hey, dude, we're down to a science now, okay?
I wouldn't use the S word yet.
How long did it take me to set up today? 5 minutes?
You did a good job today. You did a really good job today. There have been some other days, my brother. There's been other days, man.
Well, I'll be totally honest with you, Brian. I don't know what I'm doing here. Okay, this is all starting from scratch.
You're the producer of the Brian Whitman Podcast Show, soon to be the Conway and Whitman Podcast Show. What did he say? What? Huh?
What was that?
It's possible. Right now, you're the producer of the Brian Whitman Podcast Show, soon to possibly be the Conway and Whitman Podcast Show. Or maybe the live Conway and Whitman Internet Radio Show. Or you're soon to be the producer of the Conway and Whitman Back on the Regular Radio Show. But I don't want to get into what may come in the future.
Yeah, don't tease people, Brian.
But I love to tease the chicks, man. You know what? I was banging some chick, KLSX chick, who I met through the radio station. Mm-hmm. And you know what I was doing, Randy Wang?
Fucking her?
Dude, I want you to bleep that. No, you can keep that. Just one. Say effing her.
I'm not saying it loud. Your neighbors aren't going to hear it.
No, it's not my neighbors hearing it. And this is a nice neighborhood, dude. Mm-hmm. I just never did a show. Like, I'm not Howard Stern. I don't have to say, the F word all the time.
No, it's not like we're intentionally saying it, but if it comes out fluidly, we're not censored. There's no filter here.
I know, and it's not about my neighbors. It's not about my neighbors.
And what about your neighborhood, Brian?
Well, no, it is a nice neighborhood. I'll tell you about that in a second, but I was just going to say something. What was I saying? Oh, some chick, yeah. So I like to work on them. Mm-hmm. I like to make them feel good.
You like to go down on them, basically.
Dude. What? Yeah, that's cool. That's fine. Who am I all of a sudden? Am I like, am I doing the Rick Dees show? I can't believe Randy Wang said going down on her on the air. Good God almighty, Randy. I've told you 100 times. We don't say go down on.
Yeah, I got that speech from Silver a bunch of times.
You know when I got in trouble? One time, excuse me for my throat. Little Diet Coke, little DC will help out. Little DC, how about little DC? That's Jack Silver, not Jack Silver. F him. That's Jack Nicholson with the frog in his throat. I think I need a little bit of Diet Coke. Let me have a little Diet Coke. Please tell me you have more than Private Santiago's phone records. Please tell me the life of these Marines is not hinged upon Private Santiago's phone records. You want to go watch that later? I have that DVD. And sometimes, you know what I do? Almost all the time, I just fast forward to the courtroom scene where Lieutenant Colonel Nathan Jessup.
Do we have to sit on the same couch?
No, dude, I wouldn't sit next to you.
You wouldn't snuggle up?
Randy, you part of your charm is that you haven't snuggled up to anybody in 24 years. Well, maybe your mom. Don't you snuggled with your parents? I hope you maybe didn't, because you have a kind of an edge to you.
No, I really didn't really snuggle up.
I want to tell the audience the one time I got in trouble with Rick Dees. I worked with Rick Dees. I started working with Rick Dees. I was 18 years old doing stupid voices on his show. Rick, you've got Bush on the line. George Bush here. Not George. Hey, not this guy. Not the guy in Crawford. Not the guy who said, fool me once. Shame on you. We have that, right? Yeah.
Sure.
Perhaps, top 10 most embarrassing moments for him during his 8 years of his presidency. Remember this?
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
Yeah, remember that?
That was awesome.
That was great, right? I always used to say when I was emceeing at the Laugh Factory, I would say, watching George Bush, he was the president at the time, I said, watching the president give a speech is like watching a guy walk a tightrope. You're never sure if he's going to make it across because it's always things like, well, look, I want to say about, I'm the kind of guy who, and that's the part where he starts to kind of lilt to the left or the right, usually lilt to the right, and you're going, oh my God, he's going to fall off. And he goes, hey, look, I love freedom. And that's when he makes it to the other side.
Yes.
And I was like, yeah, the effing guy made it, man. So anyway, worked for Rick Dees. Only time I ever got in trouble from Rick Dees. I used to do a bit, started as Sexual Harassment Man. You're too young to remember Clarence Thomas and Anita Hill and the sexual harassment deal, right?
I know of it, but I don't really know that much.
I created a character for Rick based on that news story. I said, Rick, let's do a character called Sexual Harassment Man. He'll call into the show and he'll sexually harass Ellen Kay, his co-host and sidekick. So Sexual Harassment Man was just me doing a New York accent, and he'd call and he'd go, yeah, how you doing? This is the first time I ever did the bit. Well, hello, who is this, please? Yeah, my friends call me Sexual Harassment Man. Who's calling me? No, doing a radio show. I got a realtor calling me. I'm selling a house in New York. I'm a media mogul.
Wow.
I have so many properties, it's unbelievable. By the way, Randy, if I had... No, you're not.
Hey, Donald, what's up with Trump International going bankrupt?
I know. We'll talk about that later. I can only do a couple of bits at once here. You got me juggling 9 bits. Back to Rick Dees. Sexual Harassment Man. And what is your name, please? Good morning. It's Kiss FM. Yeah, my friends call me Sexual Harassment Man. Little laughter in the background. Sexual Harassment Man? Yeah. Hey, Dees, do me a favor. Get out of the way. Is Kay there? I used to call her Kay, Ellen Kay. And he goes, well, she is here. And Ellen says, hi, I'm here. And I said, yeah, how you doing, Kay? You doing all right? And she said, yeah, I'm doing okay. And I said, yeah, I bet you are. So what are you doing after the show? Maybe a little lunch or something? And she went, no, I'm very busy after the show. I have a meeting, and I'm very busy. Yeah, here's what I do. I swing by the station, maybe pick you up for a little lunch. No, today's not a good day, and yeah, but I like you. I seen your pictures. I seen you in magazines. I think you're pretty hot. And Rick would say, you know what, this type of conversation with women is inappropriate. It's sexual harassment. It's all over the news. Yeah, all right, be quiet, Dees. Hey, Kay, maybe I make you smile. I got a joke for you. How do you get Pee Wee Herman off a bicycle? She goes, I don't know how. You yank him off. Rick Dees in the morning. Then he'd play the jingle, live from high atop Sunset and Vine. Rick Dees in the morning. And then he played like it was 1991, so he probably played Totally Crossed Out, Criss Cross, right here at Kiss FM.
They were at Sunset and Vine?
They were actually, it was Sunset. I passed the building with Conway in the car the other day. Oh, no, I thought I passed the building. When I first started working with Kiss FM, it was at 6255 Sunset Boulevard. We were on the 11th floor. I would bet $1,000 we were on the 11th floor. It was adjacent to Vine. So it was really the corner. If you exited the building and I think made a left, but you didn't have to cross a block. That was Vine. Or made a right, and that was Vine.
Wow.
So when Ernie Anderson, God rest his soul, who Conway's dad, the great Mr. Conway, Tim Conway Sr., his best friend was Ernie Anderson, and that was the voice of, now, live from high atop Sunset and Vine. Rick Dees in the morning. And then he was the guy who did Coming up on ABC, it's an all-new Macgyver. And he did the Love Boat. I swear to God, you guys want to, I mean, if you're like nostalgic for the 80s, YouTube Ernie Anderson and listen to him say things like, coming up on an all-new, oh, I had a stroke. I had a little stroke there.
Brian, your face is dripping.
I swallowed my tongue, dude. Hit me in the back.
Here we go.
Oh, wow. All right. Thanks, dude.
You all right?
Yeah, now I'm all right.
Have a Diet Coke.
Let me have a little DC. Do they make diet cocaine? So here's go on YouTube and you'll hear like, it's an all-new Hardcastle and McCormick, followed by the greatest American hero.
No, the best is when he does a light show, then a serious show.
Oh, yeah, like when he would go, light would be Hardcastle and McCormick, and then he'd go to Life Goes On with Corky, which is my favorite. What nights were they on? Like Tuesday night?
Yeah, sure.
Sunday night? Or the Love Boat? Sunday night on ABC. Climb on board. Sunday night on it. You don't have to edit these. It's just the way I used to watch him do this, and this is how he would do it. Sunday night on ABC, it's an all-new Love Boat. Climb aboard with Charo. Then it's a very special Life Goes On. Corky proposes marriage to his pillowcase. Can he handle the rejection? Yeah.
That's great.
Or my other favorite one was, then it's a very special Life Goes On. Corky get my voice a little off today. Then it's a very special. Then it's a very special Life Goes On. Corky gets brutalized by schoolyard thugs when he refuses to give up his lunch money.
Brian, can I tell you something real quick that I don't think I've ever told you? The first time I heard you...
No, dude, I know. I know. You have to tell me. You don't have to tell me, Randy. It's cool, and I know you work with me. It's cool. You're my friend. I know. I know, dude.
You know what?
I know there's something you've never told me. It's... Why am I hearing buzz? Why am I hearing hum?
Oh, it's my friggin' phone.
Turn your damn phone off. You don't have to tell me something you've never told me, because everybody knows. Conway and I talk about it. We know, dude. You don't have to...
You don't know this. I've never told you this. It's nothing big. It's just...
Oh, so it's not that.
It's not that.
Oh, all right. So tell me what you want to tell me, dude.
Okay, well, when you first came out with Tim Conway Jr. in 2005 on the Conway and Brian show...
Which was Jack Silver's idea. Conway and Whitman sounds like a law firm. I said, Jack... And I had known Jack forever by that point. I said, Jack... You don't think Conway and Steckler sounded like a law firm? Conway and Whitman can sound like a law firm. It's Conway and Brian, because, Brian, you're like a nice guy and very personable, so we're going to call you Brian and we'll call him Conway. I said, if anything, call it Tim and Brian and go for two first names, or Conway and Whitman. But that was June of 2005 when I had the great honor, honest to God, of stepping in, and I never filled his shoes. The great Doug Steckler. I was the biggest Conway and Steckler fan. And it was when I was working with Rick Dees doing Sexual Harassment Man, saying, how do you get Pee Wee Herman off a bicycle? Which, by the way, I had to clean up the joke for the air, because the punchline to Ellen K was, hey, how do you get Pee Wee Herman off a bicycle?
You yank him off.
Yeah, the original punchline, which Rick wouldn't let me do. Hey, Ellen.
Hey.
You know how you get Pee Wee Herman off a bicycle?
I don't know.
You jerk him off. And Rick said, no, Brian, we're not going to do that. But I do have to tell the audience. Wait, you had something to say.
So just very quickly, it's, when you first came on, me, like a lot of Conway and Steckler, is like, who is this Brian Whitman guy?
Right. Is he funny? Is he a hack?
And the first thing I ever heard you do that made me realize this guy is friggin' hilarious.
You don't have to kiss my ass. You got the job, dude.
But no, I'm totally serious. Listening in the car, it was you doing Ernie Anderson and then an all-new Macgyver.
Yeah. Macgyver. Richard Dean Anderson is back.
That's the first thing that you did that made me crack up in my car.
Macgyver rescues a busload of orphans on a runaway trip to hell. Then Macgyver diffuses a time bomb with a blade of grass. Tonight on ABC, it's an all-new Macgyver. And then you remember America's Funniest Home Videos?
Yeah.
You've heard that one, right?
Yes.
It's America's Funniest Home Videos. Who will win the $10,000 grand prize? Will it be Baby with a Weed Whacker? Grandma runs into a fire hydrant? or Daddy gets caught in bed with another woman.
That's so great, Brian.
Because all of the clips were like were people like bad S happening to people. All right, so I want to tell you, asked about my neighborhood. I want to mention something about my wonderful neighborhood that I hope I can live in for a long time. That's why we went from dozens of subscribers at BrianWhitman.com here on the Brian Whitman Podcast Show to hundreds of subscribers, and now we need to go to thousands of subscribers. It's only $5 for the cost of a cup of Starbucks. You get 30 days, an entire month of shows, and I don't know, one day could be the Conway and Whitman podcast. I don't know. I'm not just saying, but
yeah, guys, please tell your friends about this. We'd love to get to as many people as we can to listen to Brian Whitman again.
You can email me. My email address is my name, emailwhitman@gmail.com. The other day, I gave out Brian David Whitman @gmail.com.
And we own both of those.
We own a lot. Between the two of us, I own a lot of stuff.
Well, it's Gmail. It's a free email account. We don't own anything.
But we have the rights to it.
Yeah.
But any emails, and I got a ton of them in there, if you want to subscribe to the show, go to BrianWhitman.com and just go through PayPal. And you know this, obviously. Tell your friends. Go to BrianWhitman.com, go through PayPal, and subscribe to the show.
And make sure you register your username first.
Yeah, now that's a point of confusion for people. Well, tell them what they have to do, because I got two great stories.
I mean, by the way, we're really trying to make this simpler for everybody, and eventually it will be a lot easier. But right now...
How soon? Because I can't take too much more of it. I'm going to be back on the pills.
Well, this guy, one of our listeners, Neil, emailed me today about a way to fix this, so I'm going to try and...
Oh, well, hello, Neil. I don't think you need... You don't need to fix anything right now. It's working fine.
Well, no, it's working fine. It's just I would like it so once you subscribe, I have to manually activate their account.
Yeah.
And, when I'm not home all the time, that's difficult, and people are starting to email or call saying, why can't I get it right away? But if we can figure out how to, once they subscribe, activate immediately, we're going to figure that out.
That's what has to happen. You need to be activated immediately, and then you get a note that I didn't really sit down and write personally to you, but it's obvious because it says, "Hey guys," right? It's obvious. It's an automated thank you note from me for subscribing and supporting me.
Well, we need a new one because the one that you said, the show starts this, the show starts then. So you need to get a new email to send to everybody.
Well, ideally, the show should be no later, and now especially should be no later than 5 Pacific with your new hours. Oh, your new hours. Oh, you don't have work hours. So 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern should not be a challenge. I don't want any biatching. And you know what Snoop Dogg puts in his laundry?
Bleach?
Yeah.
That is great. 10 minutes after 8 o'clock right now, it's moving 93.9.
Or it's moving 93.9, I think.
And if we had ASCAP rights, we could put a song there.
I had a 3-hour dinner with Rick Dees a couple of weeks ago. I told you about that, right? Did I tell you about the really good stuff?
I don't think you told me about any of it.
Because he's my friend, and it's kind of private. So don't go to BrianDavidWhitman@gmail.com to subscribe. Tell your friends, go to BrianWhitman.com and go through PayPal. If you want to send me a personal email message like, "Oh my God, Whitman, you are so hot. I can't believe it." Send that to Email Whitman. That comes straight to me. Those are personal messages, not subscription stuff. That's emailwhitman@gmail.com. And if you have a technical question, randywang2@gmail.com. Now, I got a couple of stories here. Didn't I have a story to tell about a chick I was with?
Oh, that's where this all started. You were going to talk about a chick you banged at KLSX.
That's where this haul started?
This all started.
Oh, all right. Because it's ALL. It's like the fabric detergent. There's not an H in front of it, is there?
Do I have a little thick tongue, Brian?
Well, no, you do have a little thick tongue.
No, so I was with some chick, hitting it with some KLSX Conway and Whitman fan. But she was, some people, I would say most, loved Conway. And I would say most loved Conway, and some loved Whitman. And
it's about 50-50.
Do you really think so?
Yes.
You really think it was 50-50?
Maybe 60-40.
All right.
Conway.
F you, dude. You know what? It might be 70-30. Anyway.
Well, all I'm saying is Conway is the most likable guy in radio.
Is
that fair?
Off the air.
Off the air and on the air.
But no. On the air, he's not the most likable guy. Rick Dees said this to me. I'll share you what Rick Dees said about Tim Conway at dinner.
You know what, Brian? I really, really miss hearing you on Conway and Whitman. This was back when KLSX was FM Talk and it was KLSX. What are the new call letters, by the way?
It's still KLSX, AMP Radio.
Yeah, but I thought they got to come up with new call letters, but they can't go KAMP. Well,
No.
they'll figure it out.
But mind you, KLSX was the old call letters for the classic rock station. It stands for classics.
I know, retard. I'm in radio.
I'm explaining to the listeners, not to you.
In my mug collection that Conway gave me S for every day, you know what I have in my mug collection, which I stole from the radio station?
You didn't steal it.
I borrowed it.
You begged one of our old production guys at KLSX, Ron Lipkin, for his mug.
Oh, that's right. It says KLSX 97.1 FM. It's the old classic rock logo.
With the red and yellow.
Red and yellow, and it says on the other side of the mug in yellow, it just says Howard.
Yes.
So it's from the days of when it would be Howard Stern in the morning, and then they'd play music. Mm-hmm. Who came on after Howard? A really good DJ used to come on after Howard in the middle of the day on KLSX.
I don't remember. I remember, Jim Ladd was on at some point at night. But
Jim Ladd is the effing best. When I worked at KABC, Jim Ladd, big liberal, way bigger than me. During the election of 2004, I went on this Bush-Kerry tirade where Bush was attacking Kerry, and those I can't stand those swift boat guys. I'm not going to say anything mean about veterans because my dear father was a veteran. I won't say anything mean other than I can't stand them. But I said, George Bush's whole camp. I went on a 20-minute monologue to start the big show, 6 o'clock, Brian Whitman, 790 KABC. We're every Sunday night from 6 to 9. And if you spend all week listening to the conservative guys, if you want to know what the enemy is thinking, this is a perfect place to be. Brian Whitman travel outside. And I said, George Bush's whole mother effing camp. I didn't say mother effing on KBC. They'd fire you for that.
Really?
I said, George Bush's whole campaign has been about respecting the troops. And now he's in the awkward position of running against one. And he's letting these guys tear him down and attack a war hero. I said on the air, so I guess, George Bush, in 2004, you support the troops unless, of course, you happen to be running against one of them. That's one military service person you don't support. My studio door swings open. It's Jim Ladd. Going bananas. That was so effing great. You nailed it. I don't do a Jim Ladd impression. He's got the best voice in radio.
I love that guy.
That was so effing great. You nailed it, man. I was in the car going, yeah. Give it to him, Whitman. Yeah. You know what? It must have been a weeknight because he wasn't on Sunday nights, I don't think. So I must have been filling in on the Al Rantel show. So I must have been filling in, but Jim Ladd's great. So this chick, I'm with a KLSX chick. She was like, she liked Whitman. And she loved Conway, too, but she liked Whitman in a special way. So I'm working her over. As you said earlier, you used those words. You said going down, which is horrible.
What is that horrible?
Well, there's a clinical term. It's called cunnilingus. And
so you want me to say performing cunnilingus on this guy?
I'd rather you say that, like Dr. Drew would say. Would Dr. Drew say coming down?
On Loveline, they say eating her out.
I said coming down. I meant what I meant was I'm coming down off my antidepressants right now, so that's why I'm getting angry.
No, on Loveline, they fucking say eating out.
Dude, okay.
I know, it's just my natural...
Just say F, and I know, you want to be honest.
But who cares?
Okay. I care a little bit.
I'm not saying it loud. Your neighbors don't care, and the listeners like hearing the F word.
I'm working her over, and she says this to me. And I said, baby, please, with the belching. My God, you're like a Conway with that belching, man. The belching and the farting, man. She didn't fart. By the way, ever had a chick fart during sex?
Yeah, it's gross.
It's never happened to me.
Well,
I got to knock on wood. Honest to God, you got to get me some wood. Here's wood.
Isn't this table wood?
No, the table is not wood.
Well, how about this one? Don't mess up my set.
There we go. I literally just knocked on wood. I can't have that happen.
Okay, I'll tell you something real quick.
No, I don't want to hear the story of the farting. I'm not going to listen to it.
She farted while I was doing her doggy style.
Stop it. Randy, you've never done anyone doggy style.
I have.
You're a virgin, dude.
Wait, I'm not a virgin.
You're a closeted virgin.
I have had sex with 3 fat girls, dude.
That's it?
Yeah.
That's cool, though. That's cool. You're only, what, 29? 29?
23.
I should count. My number's low, too, by the way. It's higher than 3, but it ain't like Conway and I shared numbers on the air one night at 97.1, the FM talk station. And
And that gave me the chills. I see your hair came up there a little bit when I did that.
Well, it was a station I listened to my whole life, but it's not a funeral today.
But I used to love to do that. I'd say more Conway and Whitman coming up on 97.1, the FM talk station.
Yeah, then 3 months later it was free FM.
I didn't mind doing that either. But anyway, I really was paying attention to her, and she says this to me. I'm standing up, and she's sitting down, and she goes like this. Baby, what about you? I said, what do you think I said?
You said you just did you pointed down and whistled?
No. Yeah, I went, no. I said this. Don't worry about me. And she said, are you crazy? And then, and it was, ow. And it was Service Whitman for like an hour after that.
How many chicks, like especially KLSX listeners, that you bang?
No,
Many,
we revealed that on a previous show.
No, but how many have asked you to do impressions while you're having sex?
Oh, I've had women ask me to do impressions. And you know what the most common impression I'm asked to do?
Rick Dees?
No, but you remember I made out with Carrie Kasem, and she had me do her dad? She said it made her hot.
Oh, God, that is so wrong.
I said, Carrie, what do you say we do a little tongue kissing? And then we made out, and she's like, that was kind of like hot to me, actually. And I said, well, that's because you're sexually dysfunctional. So I got to tell the story of the one time in 14 years that Rick Dees got mad at me. I was doing that character, Sexual Harassment Man. Yeah, how do you get Pee Wee Herman? This was after the Pee Wee Herman movie theater story. How do you get Pee Wee Herman off a bicycle? You yank him off. So I was talking about like Nancy Sinatra, or I think it was Nancy Sinatra was in Playboy. Someone was in Playboy and had like large breasts, and part of the beauty of her breasts were, dude, I'm trying to write you a note. I'm not going to ask you this question on the air because I'm not going to embarrass you. So the question is, take your headphones off. Excuse me. I swear to God, you're going to want to hear this
Well,
story.
I can't read your writing. You can't read my writing.
Come over here and take your headphones off for 2 seconds. All right. You got it, Randy?
All right.
Got it. So write that number down. It's a phone number. I'm not giving private phone numbers on the air, on the podcast at BrianWhitman.com, the Brian Whitman Daily Podcast Show. So this woman had beautiful breasts, and we eventually, Sexual Harassment Man morphed after the Anita Hill thing went away, and we just called him a trucker. He drove a truck, and Rick would always say, is that guy who drives the truck through the Southland, is he on the phone? And I'd do it on a cell phone sometimes, so I sound like a truck driver. Sometimes I'd have a sound of it, you know. So, but it was the same character, just we didn't call him Sexual Harassment Man anymore. And I was commenting on this famous woman. I think it was Frank Sinatra's daughter, but I'm not sure. Very beautiful breasts and large nipples. And I was on the air with Rick because 95% of the comedy segments I would do on the air with Rick Dees, they were live. So I went, yeah, she's real hot. Yeah, I'd like to, I said something like, yeah, she needs to know my boots are made for walking right over to her apartment, you know what I mean? And then I said this, swear to God, you could dial a telephone with those nipples. That was early in my career with Rick Dees. He ran into the room I was in with a smile. And he went, Brian, no, way over the line. That's Howard Stern stuff. Don't say nipples on the Rick Dees show. And by the way, Brian, that wasn't, to the listener, that wasn't you who said nipples. To the listener, that was Rick Dees who said nipples. Now I've got to buy that back. Promise me you'll never do that again. And that's when I learned, because you know what his deal was. And I'm not going to spend much more time talking about my mentor and my dear friend, Rick Dees, but he had a rule. When we were putting the Rick Dees show together, this was our rule. Want me to give you the rule as Rick?
Go for it.
Hey, guys, here's for any joke you're going to do, for any comedy bit you're writing or producing, because that's what he says. That's how he says producing. producing. For example, I'm going to go to the supermarket and get some produce, and he gets lettuce and things. Whenever you're putting together any entertainment piece for the show, here's what I want you to imagine. And this is part of what made Rick Dees the multi-gazillionaire he is and gave him the largest. He had ratings that will never be duplicated. High 10-share ratings for years. No one else will ever in Los Angeles get the ratings that he got. It's mathematically not possible. Just because of the way radio has changed. It'll just never, but this is part of his genius. Whenever you're putting together a comedy bit, here's what I want you to imagine in your mind. Whenever you're on the microphone or doing anything for me, imagine a father in the car listening to Kiss FM and Rick Dees in the morning, driving his 12-year-old daughter to school. Don't ever do or say or write anything that's going to make that dad or mom uncomfortable in front of their 12-year-old daughter. Because if that 12-year-old daughter turns to dad and says, Dad, what did that mean? You can dial a telephone with those nipples. I promise you, Brian, that father, he'll never listen again. He'll listen to Howard Stern. Not with the daughter. He'll listen to Mark and Kim. He'll listen to Coast. Good God Almighty, Brian. It's the only time he ever got mad at me. And he didn't even say good God Almighty. So, you asked me about my neighborhood. What's cool about my neighborhood? I live in, I don't want to say the name of the neighborhood, but I live in a cool neighborhood. In my neighborhood, until he died for a very long time, lived here for a very long time. Actually, right down the street, I could take you to his house. Bob Hope, the great Bob Hope. Yeah, I tell you, boy. Yeah, isn't that marvelous? Yeah, I tell you now, wow. Bob Hope. Who do we have in the neighborhood? John Wayne's son, who's a good friend of mine.
Wow.
Well, he's not, no. That was a Hollywood showbiz line of bullshit. He's not a good friend of mine, but when I see him out and about in the neighborhood, he always says, hey, what's up? So that's John Wayne's son.
Do you do a John Wayne?
No, I don't. I'm 36, not 66. But no, it would be too close to Jack Nicholson. I'd have to work on it. And you know where I work on him?
This show?
No, alone.
All right.
I sit in my living room and I work on impressions alone, or in the car alone. Sometimes in the shower, too. But I find the water gives a sound. What are you staring at, dude?
A squirrel.
Yeah, it's a mammal, dude. So am I. How come you're not staring at me like that?
Because it's coming in your friggin' yard.
I don't care. It's nature. It's like you want to F it. You stared at it. It's a mammal, dude. I mean, don't let it attack me.
Well, what if it comes up and messes up our equipment?
Then you'll have to fix it. Or call one of the many people, I'm not threatening you, who have offered to do work for free for me. But I love you. That's why I've cut you in.
Okay.
At BrianWhitman.com and the Brian Whitman Podcast Show. Maybe one day the Conway and Whitman Podcast Show. And if Tim Conway Jr. gets permission from CBS, Dan Rather, CBS Evening News, Dan Rather giving Tim Conway Jr. permission to appear on the Brian Whitman Daily Podcast. I'm Dan Rather. I'm sorry. When I used to MC at the Laugh Factory, or I would do live events, comedy events for KABC, I'd do Dan Rather because conservatives hate Dan Rather. They loved it when I did Dan Rather. This always got a huge laugh, especially after Dan retired. Dan Rather reporting for the CBS Evening News. And forgive me, I got a scratchy voice today. Dan Rather, CBS Evening News. Now that I'm no longer behind the anchor desk, after 25 years, I can reveal something that I've kept a secret for a quarter century.
What's that?
I'm crazy. And the Sean Hannity listeners would go nuts. They loved it. Here's why I love this neighborhood. The other morning, I come out to get in my car to go to get a cup of coffee at a restaurant I won't mention because I don't want to be mobbed there, you know. Yeah, that'll happen. But I have been recognized, actually.
Wow.
It's radio. It's weird. People recognize me. I get recognized on the phone sometimes. Like, I'll give my name. I get recognized trying to get help for my Mac computer on the telephone.
That's true.
And I said, hi, I'm Brian. I have trouble. And I'm talking to the guy. And the guy's name is Ben. And he's a great guy. And we should have him come in one day and do, like, tech support like Leo Laporte does on KFI AM 640. And I said, what do you do for a living? Is this, I mean, because you're giving me free advice. You're not making any money on this. He goes, no, I do IT for the studios. He goes, can I ask you what you do for a living? I said, I'm a broadcaster. He goes, you're Brian Whitman from Conway and Whitman. I said, yeah, I used to work there. And he goes, yeah, I love Conway. I love Whitman. So I'm too bad you're not on the show anymore.
That give you a little stiffy?
It did give me a radio boner, big radio boner. But here's what's great. I come out of the house, get in the car, and it's kind of a chilly, brisk morning. And there's a guy dressed like he's going like to do the Iditarod. I mean, the guy has the big, that's an appropriate reference, right? That's in Alaska, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's got the huge hat on, big green jacket, and he's walking his dog. And he said, hey, real character-y sound of voice. Hey, kind of chilly this morning, huh? I said, yeah, it is kind of chilly. I said, good morning, how are you? I said, that is a beautiful dog. You know how much I love dogs.
Love dogs?
I
think if there's a word above love, that's what you feel for dogs.
Okay. I'm obsessed with them.
There we go.
I'm obsessed with them, and I love them. I said, what is his name? And forgive my memory, I don't remember the name. I don't even remember the name of the guy now. But I said, that is a beautiful dog. What type of dog? What breed is that? He said, oh, it's a so-and-so and so-and-so. I said, I have, dogs inside, and I have dachshunds. I said, I've had dogs my whole life. He goes, so have I. And he says, you live here? You're new? I said, yeah, I'm renting this house. I had a house down the street that I sold, and I rent this house now. He goes, I live right down the street. I say, that's great. And then I say this to him, you were on Benson, weren't you? And he goes, wow, you have a good memory. I was on Benson. The guy was one of the characters on the TV show Benson. And I shouldn't say his name because then people could find his address and.
No, I wouldn't say. Maybe say it. Don't say his
yeah,
name.
but he's a character actor and he's done a lot of stuff since Benson. But he was on Benson. First thing, wow, you have a long memory because Benson was 25 years ago. Great show, by the way.
Do you remember the show where Tim was giving you shit about?
By the way,
trying to TiVo Benson?
Hold on. Robert Guillaume, dead.
Okay,
yeah,
I don't know who that is.
Benson, lead character of the show.
Okay, but you remember the show where
Benson Dubois.
Do you remember the show where Tim was giving you total shit about you wanted to TiVo the final episode of Benson on TV Land?
It wasn't the final episode of Benson. I was just scrolling through and I saw Benson. And I thought, I haven't seen Benson in years. This is before I met the guy from Benson. And I just had a Benson Jones because I saw it was available. I was like, wow, I haven't seen Benson with Miss Krause and that black and white kitchen floor. So I tried to TiVo it, and TV Land was all screwed up, which I would do with Three's Company. And I love Three's Company. And it was like TiVo's got it, TiVo, DVR, they got to get it down to where, like some of these networks, the show, like if Benson is supposed to start, or Three's Company is supposed to start at 11, start it at 11, because that's when the DVR or the TiVo starts, from 11 to 11:30. I don't want my episode of Benson to begin 9 minutes into the episode and end, 10 minutes before the episode is over, or end before it's over. And that's what would happen. I would watch like 17 minutes of Three's Company, 16 minutes of Benson. It drove me totally mother effing crazy, so I stopped doing it. TiVo, DVR, they need to recognize when a show starts and when it begins, and that's when they should record it.
Yeah, there's a setting on TiVo where you can just add a minute before and a minute afterwards, and it's not that big of a problem, Brian.
Dude, this was way more than a minute or before or a minute after.
No, you can set it 10 minutes before if you want.
I wouldn't know how to do that. You'd have to show me how to do that. You or my technical support guy, Mark Germain, Mr. KABC. That guy is like Schneider. I got a problem. Well, when I owned my house, if I had a problem with the hot water heater or anything, or the pool heater, I had quite a house. Man, there was a time I made some money. And I would have him come over. He'd fix everything.
He'd fix your sink?
Fixed the sink, fixed everything. Now I have a landlord.
Are you okay? Brian, hold on.
I'm swallowing my tongue.
Come on, go.
That's why I'm having a seizure from the way I.
Brian,
look. Ooh, I didn't say the F word there. I just went look. I don't want people to think I said.
Dude, you should go see a doctor.
When they don't happen often.
Yeah, you've had 2 major episodes in 20 minutes.
No, dude, the healthier you get. And you know me, I've gotten much healthier.
Yes, you've gotten much healthier.
Seriously. You only have those episodes when you're like really unhealthy and not treating yourself well. I'm fine. Those were flukes.
In 20 minutes, you had 2 major episodes where I thought you might die.
Well, then call 911 on the cell phone. Have them drag me out. Do you think I've been in an ambulance before?
I think you've been in an ambulance many times.
No, I have not been in an ambulance many times, you stupid effing fat moron. I have been in... I don't think I should say... I should say it, shouldn't I?
Go for it.
This is why people subscribe and tell their friends to subscribe. I have been in an ambulance definitely once. The second time, I was strongly encouraged to get into the ambulance, and I refused. And they said, well, then we have to send the police to your house, and they might bring you to the hospital for evaluation. Einstein let them do that. So I got to sit in the back of a police car. Yeah.
Wow.
And by the way, they say this to you. We have to put handcuffs on you. This is not because you're being arrested. This is for our protection while we transport you because you have to go to the emergency room. I should have just gotten voluntarily into the ambulance. Oh, no. And there was another time I was, all right, 1 police car, 2 ambuli. What's the plural of ambulance?
Ambulances.
2 ambulances.
Ambuli. What the hell are you doing?
I got locked out of my house once during the time I was out of work.
Uh-huh.
And I had, like, something really went wrong, like what just happened. And, like, the dude who was helping me find a locksmith called an ambulance. So 2 ambulances. And this is 36 years old, so that's not too bad. Never in college was I in the hospital. To this day, oh, no, I
don't think most 36-year-old guys have these problems.
I don't have many more. And I was in the ambulance only 2 times.
But you just had almost a stroke 20 minutes ago.
No, that was not almost a stroke. I'm going to tell you something. Since the time I left 97.1 KLSX, the FM talk station, 97.1 FM talk, I was never there when they called it that.
No, when we fired Joe Cipriano and hired Chris Eric Sims to go 97.1. All right.
FM
the Brian
talk.
Whitman Show.
Yeah, I know. Podcast show. Now, what was I going to say about the ambulance? You screwed me up. What was I saying?
The ambuli.
No, one time I was in the ambulance and, I was going to say I had a streak going until I was 36. It was after I left KLSX. And the streak was I had never been admitted to a hospital, never had laid in a hospital bed, never spent a night in a hospital bed. Can't make that claim anymore.
Really?
Yeah. Didn't stay a long time. Was released fairly quickly.
I've got that streak going. I've never had to spend the night in the hospital.
Well, you're only 24. When I was 24, I had the same streak going.
23.
You're 23. I had the same streak. I had it again, retard, until I was 36 years old. So come back here in 14 years and you'll have me beat.
Okay.
23 and I've never been in an ambulance is no big deal to me.
Well, the way I'm going, I'll probably be in a hospital in a few months.
You seriously may have a drinking problem.
No. Why do you think I have a drinking problem?
Because I've seen you drunk a lot of times and you get drunk really fast.
All right, okay.
And that's true. I'm not attacking you.
The last time you saw me...
I'm not attacking you because I have my own demons. Alcohol has never been one of my...
No, I don't feel attacked. It's just the last time you saw me drunk...
I mean, I've had my share of, wine, but I'm not an alcoholic.
The last time you saw me drunk was at...
And that's what I told the counselor. I said, I'm not never mind. I'll tell that story some other time.
All right, yeah. The last time you saw me drunk was at Tim Conway Jr.'s final show. And
oh, yeah, back then. Well, you started the show at 8 o'clock, and you were totally sober. The show ended at 11:05. I gave you a hug. Congratulations. Didn't we hug?
I think you wanted to hug, and I gave you a high five.
You wouldn't hug me? You know what? I don't want to hug you.
In front of 100 people, I don't want to hug you.
You're an idiot.
You were sweaty.
Oh, and you weren't? How fat are you, really? How much do you weigh now?
I'm down to almost 250.
Do you know I've lost 20 pounds in 15 months?
I've lost 20 pounds in 2 months.
Seriously, am I not the thinnest you've ever seen me?
You are the thinnest I've ever seen you.
Yep.
And I'm definitely not the thinnest you've ever seen me.
No, I'm feeling good.
But what I was going to say is that time I got drunk...
From between 8 p.m. and you were on the clock running the control board of a Los Angeles CBS radio station.
So I'm never going to get another job in radio.
Behind the control board, And then at 11:05, you were totally S-faced. So you ran a show.
I don't think I was S-faced. I was very
You
tipsy.
were in the parking lot, dude. By 11:20, you were gone.
But it was also a high of being there on that last night.
You were gone.
And also I had a pot brownie.
You were gone. So you had some work to do which you did very well, between 8 p.m. and 11. So that takes some time away.
Yeah, did you hear one mistake in that show?
You did a great job. Again, we've moved on from the end of 97.1. No more funerals.
Okay, but what I was going to say.
But in that 3-hour period, you got S-faced. I mean, the only other person I saw get drunk that fast was our former coworker, Shauna Woolsey, who at Casino Morongo, was it? We gave her shots?
Yes.
She got totally, 2 shots, and this chick was ready to bang every dude in the casino. Oh.
Hey.
Sorry, Shauna.
By the way, would you have ever had sex with her?
No, I would not have had sex with Shauna Woolsey.
I could have.
She was my assistant. I paid her to assist me. I leased an office. I leased office space.
The office I had to clean out for you?
Yeah. You know when I leased it?
I don't know.
In an altered state.
Wow.
Yeah. I leased it.
But
how much? It was very cheap. It was only like $300 a month. It was a very small office. By the way, you cleaned it out, and the girl who doesn't live with me anymore, because would you live with me?
No.
She said, Brian, you paid Randy for that, and he broke a lot of stuff. You did break a lot of stuff on that move. You just dropped stuff. I was not home. I was away for a while. And you just dropped S by my office door, and it got rained on, and it got ruined.
I had nowhere else to put it.
How about ask the girl who used to live with me if...
You both told me, leave it on the front porch. You both told me
You didn't leave it on the front porch. It was in the backyard by the office.
Not the backyard. The front porch. That's where I left everything.
All right,
how would I get in your house? Nobody was there.
You could have called her. You had her phone number.
And I called, and she said, open the front gate, leave it on the front porch.
She then moved it outside. She said it showed up, and a lot of stuff was broken. That's all I'm saying.
All right, but back to that night we were at, and I had 6 beers and a pot brownie in 3 hours.
You were drunk, dude. You were totally, totally drunk. So people have said to me, Whitman, this is so cool to hear you do the podcast show, the Brian Whitman podcast show at brianwhitman.com. $5, you get an entire month of shows. Randy Wang said something. It's a perspective that really only Randy Wang would have. He said, dude, we're going to run this like they run the porn sites. You get 30 days of access. But in this case, it's only $5. I think the porn sites might be a little more expensive.
Yeah, if we were charging porn money, we'd be rich right now.
Well, we'd have to be nude, and there'd have to be a camera, and there'd have to be a significant number of people who want to see fat white dudes nude to advertise, to subscribe. And that market's not out there. So tell your friends, sign up. If you loved KLSX, if you loved FM Talk, if you loved all of that stuff, then, it's still here. It's still here. Conway's going to be a guest. Who knows? One day it'll be the Conway and Whitman podcast. Who knows? Maybe Tim and I are on a radio station again. Who knows? Maybe we're doing a daily internet show. But here I want to play you something. 1 second, Randy Wang. I want to play you something. People ask, have you ever done your show on the internet? And I did. I did one of the first ever internet shows, and it was a good idea during the .com boom. There was an internet site called Comedy World. They called it Comedy World, comedyworld.com. You familiar with it?
You've told me about it
All right.
1,000 times.
Okay, the owner of the company, a great guy named Kent Emmons, a super, super guy with a beautiful daughter named Ashley. The owner of the company hired me. I was the first person hired in the entire company. He said, you do radio. I'm going to hire some stand-up comics. It's a comedy radio station available on the internet, and we video stream, so it's going to be like a TV show, too. I have a lot of tapes. Have you ever seen a tape?
No, but you've offered to give me one a bunch of times.
You should take one. You might learn something. So I was first person ever hired at .com boom. They paid me unbelievable money. I sat in Marina Del Rey, and I did this show. And it was one of the first ever internet shows. And now I'm back on the internet. Of course, the technology is different. This is a podcast. You could put it on your iPod. You could burn it to a CD. You can do anything as long as you go to brianwhitman.com and you're a paid subscriber, and you work that out. And if you have a question about signing up or subscribing, email Randy Wang, randywang2 at gmail.com. But people have emailed me and asked me about my first experiment with internet radio, and I did the morning show because Rick Dees once said to me, "Hey, Brian, you want to make a lot of money in this business? Don't ever do anything but a morning show." So I followed his advice until I joined the Conway and Whitman show. But these are just, I have these in the audio vault, and this is just for being a subscriber. This is one of the, these are like little promos, little snippets of the morning show I did at Comedy World, comedyworld.com, the Brian Whitman Morning Show. Take a listen to, just run a bunch of these together. I think we got like 5 or 6, right?
All right, we'll run them.
Yeah, so you know what? Run them.
If you missed the Brian Whitman Morning Show on Comedy World, you missed some funny stuff.
The Olympics started to get exciting because they have a woman who runs track who's legally blind. The only problem is she runs faster than the golden retriever, so she winds up pulling him over the finish line. But she's got the macular degeneration. She's legally blind, which is cool because she uses her stick also in the javelin competition, so it works out quite well.
The Brian Whitman Morning Show, weekday mornings 5 to 9 Pacific, only on Comedy World. If you missed the Brian Whitman Morning Show on Comedy World, you missed some funny stuff.
I'm in Vegas.
Okay.
I'm at Bellagio. When you're in Bellagio, it's almost like being in Italia. With the exception of the blackjack tables, the craps, the roulette wheel, the slot machines, and people screaming, really fat, pasty white people in Hawaiian shirts, with the exception of those people, it's really just like being in Italy.
What'd you wear?
A Hawaiian shirt.
The Brian Whitman Morning Show, weekday mornings 5 to 9 Pacific, only on Comedy World. If you missed the Brian Whitman Morning Show on Comedy World, you missed some funny stuff.
888-398-3578, the toll-free telephone number. Marsher.
Oh my God. You need to get some food in your belly.
Did I just have a stroke? I believe I had a stroke. I believe I just had a mini stroke. Is the right side of my face sagging, douchey? Is the right side of my face sagging?
No.
Am I right?
Saliva.
Is it a little saliva?
The Brian Whitman Morning Show, weekday mornings 5 to 9 Pacific, only on Comedy World.
Sorry if that got irritating with that guy's voice. The Brian Whitman Morning Show on Comedy World.
That's classic shit, man.
By the way, that guy, the only coworker I ever screamed at.
Yeah, dude, that Vegas bit is fucking hilarious.
Oh, no, wearing the Hawaiian shirt? Yeah, that was a good one. Those are just promos. The show was 4 hours every morning, and they shot it like a television show. It was really cool, and they had cameras, so I would book really, because on the internet, as it turned out, didn't get a lot of phone calls, but when I wanted to make the staff feel like people were really listening, I had this little production piece, and it was called with a cash register sound, and it said, "The Brian Whitman Comedy World Cash Call, Cash Call, Cash Call." And this one I had, more money than I do now, and I'd have a stack of $20 bills. I'd have like $200, 10 20s, and I'd say, "I want to prove to my staff," and my staff is totally demoralized. I think nobody's listening. "I want to fill the phone lines now. I want 10 people to call. If you call, one of these $20 bills will go in an envelope. We'll put your address on it. We'll mail it to you." And then inevitably, the people would crawl out of the woodwork who were watching it on the internet or just listening to the audio feed. And I'd spend $200, but it killed the segment. It killed the break, and it was great. But it was set up so nice. I'd have guests on. I'd have quirky guests. Like I'd have Richard Hatch on. Actually, we had him the morning after he won Survivor.
Wow.
But it was like CNN. It was almost like cable news. So you'd see me doing the radio show, and then on the bottom it would say, "On the phone, Richard Hatch, Survivor winner." Or like, "On the phone, president of the William Shatner fan club." I gave her a lot of shit. She hung up on me. She hated me. And we did all of this literally in a trailer. Honest to God, it was during the dot-com boom. They spent so much money on the technology and the lights and the cameras. I got the tapes to prove it, the graphics. And I literally did the show from a trailer. My office was a trailer. Everything was a trailer. It was like being in a basement. It echoed when you talked. There were no hallways. It was just like a big basement filled with trailers. It was unbelievable. I did the show in a mother effing trailer park.
I can't see you in a trailer.
Well, you should have come by. It was the year they fired me. I worked there. I was hired by the owner in 1999. I had a commitment in 1999. I didn't start doing shows until April of 2000, and they fired me on Friday the 13th. How about that? October 13th, 2000. And you know what I said on the air during that show that morning?
What'd you say?
This Friday the 13th is a bunch of crap. Nothing bad has ever happened to me on Friday the 13th. 10 minutes after the show, Brian, can we see you inside? I step in, and I remember his name. I won't say it, but he was the attorney for the company. His first name is Peter. I'll say his first name, and I knew this is radio. It was internet radio. I looked at him and went, oh, Peter, interesting to see you here. Sat down and then was told, get out. But no, I did it in a trailer, and, it worked out really, really well.
And what'd you make there?
Now, why would you ask a personal question like that?
I'm just curious.
Why? Because it was in a trailer?
Yeah. You must have made, 20, 30 grand? If they can't afford the housing, how can they afford to pay you?
Well, they had studios. They were just in trailers. I mean, it was kind of a low-end setup.
So, yeah, then how much do they pay you?
All right, that's a highly personal question, but I guess part of being a subscriber at BrianWhitman.com on the Brian Whitman Podcast Show is honesty, right?
Sure.
That job was the single highest paying job I've ever had in my life. I did a morning radio show in San Diego that paid me, I think, a third of what I made there. A little more than a third. I worked at WABC in New York. WABC in New York, the most listened to talk radio station in America. And I made they paid me more than 3 times that salary. I worked at 97.1, the FM talk station. They paid me less than half of what I made at this internet. It was the .com boom.
Wow.
Take a guess.
20 grand?
No, seriously. Unless you don't give a crap. I mean, you asked.
What did you make? $500,000?
No, did not make that much.
300.
A little more than that.
320.
It's like the high-low game on The Price is Right. A little higher. A little higher.
All right, 350.
A little higher.
380.
A little lower.
375.
All right, it's the Brian Whitman Podcast Show, but they fired me, keep in mind. They fired me. But it was the best firing ever. My dad was visiting from New York. God bless my dad, he's in heaven. A retired New York City police officer. He went with me to their legal offices to pick up my settlement check. The two of us, well, he had, because he'd bought houses and stuff. I had never seen a check that big. It was the best firing ever. And 6 months after they fired me, they went out of business. I got out just in time. I still see people who I worked with there, really great friends of mine. They say, dude, you got out just in time. At least you got paid. I said, I didn't get paid, in my opinion, of course, what I felt was owed to me in the contract, but I was satisfied with what I got. All right? Anything else we got to do here, or are we set to go here? I think that just about does it today, right?
I got to go to the bathroom, so can you wrap it up?
Yeah, bathrooms inside you. By the way, you or anyone who's ever a guest on the Brian Whitman Podcast Show, always use the bathroom.
In the guest room.
Never use
Brian's bathroom.
Thank you. BrianWhitman.com. Tell your friends to subscribe. $5 a month. You spend that at Starbucks on a cup of coffee that's gone in a half hour. It's 25 cents a day. We used to thank the dozens of subscribers. Now we thank the hundreds of subscribers at BrianWhitman.com. Timmy Conway Jr. Will be on this show very soon, and you never know, it might become the Conway and Whitman Daily Podcast.
Don't tease people, Brian. Don't tease
I'm not
people.
teasing it. I'm just saying, did I say anything out loud?
Muttered it.
I muttered something? Well, I had a throat problem. I got a raspy throat. I can't be held accountable for what I may or may not have said today. On the Brian Whitman Podcast Show at BrianWhitman.com.